Hey everyone, it's Pittaker from Rock Daydream Nation, and welcoming back to the channel, I've got Mark O'Neill from Pulse 94.7 FM. How are you, Mark?
Okay, how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. We're going to talk about Deep Purple, and we are going to talk about Deep Purple. We're going to talk about the album Perpendicular. Mark, this was a change of the lineup. Richie Blackmore left the building, and we had Steve Morse into the band. So we're going to talk all things Perpendicular, and I'm going to raise the question, the overriding question, is this the album that saved Deep Purple? Now, Steve Morse was in the band for a considerable period of time. In fact, he recorded more albums than Richie Blackmore. It was a fairly stable lineup, and we're going to talk about the songs, the experiences, the live tour, which I happened to see and actually did come down under. Trade off on your experiences with this album. So my first question to you, Mark O'Neill, can you really call Deep Purple without Richie Blackmore, or did Perpendicular prove the band was bigger than one guitarist? What was your views on Steve Morse slotting into the role?
Well, again, I was so happy that he was nothing like Richie, because if he tried to impersonate him and not be himself, that wouldn't have worked at all.
Do you think that was a smart decision at the time in choosing a guitarist that didn't sound like Blackmore, or should they have been looking? Did you think at the time they should have been looking for somebody that was closer to the classic Deep Purple sound?
No, I think it had to be much different than Blackmore. They did want Satriani to stay, but he was under contract.
I think the thing that I took from the show, the live show, was that his style of playing was way different to Blackmore. Yeah. And there was a lot of arpeggio runs, more of a finger tapping, more of a modern technique. It was less of the neoclassical style of guitar playing. I'm not a guitarist, so apologies if some of my terminology is a little bit off skew, but definitely the style of playing was less classical, less riffy, and it was more, dare I say, jazzy and more fusion. Is that the observation that you had when you saw Deep Purple with Steve Morse?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I never minded fusion or jazzy stuff, because from 11, I was a prog fan. And so, yeah, that was fine with me.
So in that era that they came out, just looking at the landscape of music and where Deep Purple were, alternative rock was king, wasn't it, Mark? You'd probably know from radio. Grunge had taken over, hard rock and heavy metal was, and a lot of classic rock bands were sort of made redundant. It was like it was all over overnight. So Deep Purple were in a very unique position, weren't they? Like it seemed like the glory days of 1984, where they had the second large, most popular concert tour behind Springsteen with the comeback. It seemed like it was like an eons ago, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, by the time, long before that, it felt like it was a long time ago, probably by the late 80s.
The style of writing, so let's talk about Perpendicular. So what was your first impression of the album? Let's talk about that. What was your first impression of listening to Perpendicular? It's a long album, isn't it? Goes through about 65 minutes. So for a Deep Purple album, it's a lot longer, and it really uses up the space on the CD age. And a lot of the songs are more languid. And I say the word languid, they take their time to reveal itself. What was your first impressions of the album when you heard it?
Well, with Ted the Mechanic, I loved it. And then there's, well, at least a couple songs on it that I just hate. There are a lot of these sort of mid-tempo things that don't really go anywhere. There's one song on there that I absolutely love, but it probably will surprise people, but it needed the album to be an all-out rocker for that one to really stand out.
Yeah, so when you think that like you're in the alternative rock, It's a different style of rock that's playing. This music that they were playing on Perpendicular was decidedly unfashionable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because although it's not a prog album, it's definitely going into a direction that's less riffy, more progressive. It takes its time to reveal itself. One of the common criticisms of the album is it really does lack iconic guitar riffs. You're admiring the songwriting and you're admiring the songs, but there's no riffs that sort of stick it as earwiz, is there? Even Ted the Mechanic, there's no riff that it's built. There's no riff around that song, is it?
No, it's just lively and very different. So even if it were a whole album of Ted the Mechanics, that wouldn't have worked either. But as a one-off type of song on the album, I love it.
Ted the Mechanic is the first song on the album, so we can have a little bit of a chat about that. When I listen to that song, I think of a band, Toto. And funny I should say Toto, because I saw this tour whenever it came out to Australia, but I also saw the tour they did in 98, 99, where they had a horn section and backup singers. And they played Ted the Mechanic with horns, and it made it even more sound like Toto. So to me, a lot of the songs on this album are going in a direction where I dare say it sounds a bit Dire Straits, sounds a bit Toto, where there's a lot of virtuosity and there's a lot of musicology, but there's no riff. It's less riffy and classic rock.
It could have even had a segment in it with some scat jazz.
Yes. I think I've got a theory that they were so badly burnt with Richie leaving the band, they were reinventing themselves, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I think that, who were the two dominant personalities in that band with, the Mark II? Who are they?
Well, Blackmore and Gillan out front.
Yes. Blackmore goes.
Yeah.
Who's the band leader?
Well, exactly. But to me, Blackmore and Lord were a team, maybe even more than Blackmore and Gillan.
Yeah, but I think that, Gillan is the band leader. Now look at that picture behind me. Who's in the middle?
Yeah.
Gillan. So this album, I think he's the driver. Even though you have interviews with Glover and Paice and go, oh, there's no band leader. Don't listen to what they're saying. There is an alpha male and he's driving it. And it may be passive aggressiveness that, a lot of this type of music's going through, but this is a Gillan album.
Oh,
the lyrics are eccentric. The music sounds a lot like the Gillan solo albums. I'm talking about Gillan Glover, Accidentally on Purpose, Naked Thunder, even some hints back to the old days of the Gillan band where it was wacko, and I say wacko in a nice way. I love that band. But this has got Gillan's fingerprints all over the album, don't you think?
Oh, yes. And I'll definitely touch on that.
Yeah. So what's another song that you want to highlight that you took a shine to when you first heard it and, maybe subsequent listens now?
Well, sometimes I feel like screaming. I think that's the only thing that the second Mrs. O'Neill and I agreed on. We both loved it. And that she's no longer Mrs. O'Neill. But again, I think it needed, like another song on here, it needed to be a more all-out rock album for that to really stand out.
It's a pretty song.
Yeah,
it's pretty. It's delicate. Wonderful guitar work, but the hooks aren't immediate. It develops quite slowly. It doesn't have that an instant impact. You know, and this is the whole problem that I think why a lot of people didn't take to this album at the time, because it didn't chart that well, didn't sell that well. You know, Steve Morse was not trying to copy Blackmore, but for some fans, that's exactly the problem. Deep Purple, they love the danger. They love the edge and, you know, where the flying by the seat of your pants type environment. And we did a whole show about Come Hell or High Water and Richie throwing a glass of water at a cameraman. That sense of, you know, in unpredictability. This album, to me, it's pretty, it's lyrical, but it's a little bit polite. What do you? How do you defend? Can you defend that criticism?
Well, it's absolutely true. Although sales-wise in America, it was The Battle Rages On that killed them. That made 192 or 193. This didn't chart. So they were pretty much done in America as far as selling any significant albums, new ones anyway.
Yeah, but probably they didn't tour in America, did they? Under Blackers. So it was their anniversary tour. They should have toured America.
Well,
Maybe,
I think
correct me if I'm wrong.
There was one scheduled, and I had tickets for Jones Beach. That was canceled. I guess Blackmore, I don't know if it's because Blackmore already left. And there were other ones, so maybe they did a handful, but that would have been it. And they didn't with Satriani, as far as I know.
Yeah. But look, sometimes I feel like Screaming, it's probably one of the best songs on the album.
Yep.
It's got an emotional, touching guitar solo, and Gillan's got some very vulnerable lyrics. But, you know, as I said, it doesn't sound like Deep Purple. And I know that you and I have spoken about this. If there was some way they could have renamed this band and started afresh, it may have had a fighting chance of success. And I was thinking maybe they could have called the band Perpendicular. Still got the pays homage to the, you know, the name Purple, but to me, it does not sound like a Deep Purple album. And, you know, again, I think this song sounds like it's going in Dire Straits territory.
I don't know if the labels would have allowed that.
No, because, you know, when you've got that, it's a blue chip name, isn't it? Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. You can't muck around with that. I'll give you another one, which is completely sounds nothing like Deep Purple, The Aviator.
Yeah.
That's an acoustic-driven track. It's kind of folky. This is as far away as you would hear in a Deep Purple, even Anyone's Daughter. Think of the most out there Mark II song. This goes even further. So Steve Morse is definitely, you know, applying his influence, his roots influence. What do you think of this song? And do you think that, did you have the same feeling when you heard this? Like, wow, this doesn't sound like Deep Purple at all?
Well, I thought it was the Clancy brothers at first. But I actually like it very much. But again, it doesn't stick out as much as it should have in a good way because how lackluster a lot of the other songs were. Yeah.
Do you want to show put a spotlight on a lackluster song, and maybe we can you know, wrap our opinions around that? What song do you not like?
Well, most of them to me, even the ones that are heavy, it's not a fast heavy. Now I saw a video of a Uriah Heep song from Living the Dream. And what's the name of it? Great song, something about heaven, phased by heaven, something by heaven. It's got riffs. It would have been perfect for Purple because it actually rocks. The riffs on this album, they're more like doomy Sabbath ones, but second rate. And the rest of the songs, it's not as heavy, you know, as Sabbath. So it's almost the riffs are like a second-rate Sabbath. And I think they really need to up it, like that Heep song, or even if they did something like the Mob Rules, because that wasn't Blackmore's style, but Morse might have been able to pull something like that off.
Look, there are some riffy songs on it that do hint at Deep Purple, and I would have loved it to go on in more in that direction. You know, like A Castle Full of Rascals. This is the most Purple sounding song on the most part of the album. It's got a chunky riff and a strong rhythm section with Glover and Paice.
Yeah,
but it kind of feels a little bit underdeveloped. It feels like, okay, they're putting their toes in the deep, the classic Deep Purple pool, and then they take their feet out. Let's get back into the experimental and do something like Hey Cisco, which just meanders that song, where it's got jazz, blues. It just doesn't know. It's a little bit schizophrenic. It doesn't know what genre of music it would like to be under.
Yeah, I agree. And with Cisco, I think it sounded like they were almost ready to go into Hush 88 at some stage. I don't like the song at all. And again, I don't mind Gillan's lyrics. A lot of times I like his weird lyrics, but also in 99, when I saw them in Melbourne, he was rambling on about the Lone Ranger first, and then started talking about Cisco the Kid. And that just made it even worse. But I didn't like it at all the first time I heard it. And then when live, it maybe was a little livelier, but not much better.
Somebody Stole My Guitar. Again, it hints that there's a bit of riffage in this one. He's using his guitar effects, and it's a bit more of playful energy. But again, it has a lot of energy, but it feels a little bit underdeveloped. So I think the songs that have that are shaped the best are the ones that are in Morse's DNA.
Yeah.
Where they're a bit more progressive, blues, jazz, a bit more fusion, like Ted the Mechanic, and sometimes I feel like screaming. They're the songs that work best. But the ones that they go into traditional Deep Purple territory, it's nice, but it doesn't feel like classic, the classic rock that we know with Deep Purple, that gnarly, riffy, edgy rock that Deep Purple have based their whole DNA on.
Yeah, the one good thing throughout the album, because I listened to this 3 times in the last few days, Paice and Lord can always be counted on. And even in the worst of songs, they're at least interesting to listen just to those two.
Look, you make a really good point about Lord and Paice, and Glover for that matter. They make a dynamic sort of union of 3. One thing I appreciated on this album is that John Lord knows when to rein it back. Now, my slight blemish on the later Deep Purple albums of Don Airey is he's way too busy. He's injecting all these little keyboard fills when less is more. So I think John Lord had the ability of know when to come in and when to come out, and that's one of the shining lights on this album. Would you agree?
Yeah, Airey sort of still played as he did in Coliseum too.
And Rainbow, Difficult to Cure. I Surrender and the little trilly melody bits, they're just a little bit more restraint would be good. With this album, I think you think Morse was the right fit. Do you think, did Deep Purple need more of a heavy hand, somebody that was a guitarist that was more in that classic rock or that hard rock pedigree than less fusion, less, progressive?
Well, I know they got annoyed with him, especially Gillan, when he would play more aggressive. And I don't know how much say he had in the music, or it seems that he was struck down a lot of times. So he might have been a better fit if they let him loose, but he was held back. And I'm not sure who would have been available that could have stepped in.
Yeah.
And they probably would have had whoever that was playing to how they felt it should be at the time.
I find that he's technically brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
He's a technically brilliant guitarist, but I don't know. As I said, the thing that I find lacking on this album is sometimes technical brilliance has you're sacrificing emotion and edge and danger, and it comes down to this summary that I have in my head, the word, and I know I texted you previously between off camera that this album's very polite.
Yeah.
I want more challenge. I think the guitarists, if they're in Deep Purple, need to challenge. So if Blackmore was in the band, he'd be challenging Lord. So you'd have more interplay between the guitar and the organ. There's no interplay really between the guitar and the organ. So,
Yeah.
the classic guitar organ battle that defined the band, it's missing.
Well, that's why instead of it being Lord and Blackmore, it went to more Lord and Paice and sort of Glover in the middle.
Yeah. So are you alluding to that the band was quite frustrated that initially they had the honeymoon period with Morse, but as it went on, was that the element, do you think, that they realized it was kind of lacking and they really missed that? Because now they've got Simon McBride back, they've got that interplay, haven't they?
Yeah. Although I hear some people complain that he doesn't improvise as much as he should live. But I hope they put a live album out because what I hear, he's a great guitarist, and it'd just be interesting to hear a whole live album.
Mm.
But I think he is a better fit than Morse was.
Yeah, well, they keep on saying it's more Anglo, but I'm not sure if that's fair. Doesn't matter what where you come from. I think your musicology and your DNA. You're either if a right fit or a right fit or a wrong fit. Do you think they in this album they became a better musicians band, but at the same time they sacrificed being less exciting from a songwriting perspective?
Well, I guess you could look at it that way to a certain extent. I just don't like when they should have gotten more aggressive, they pulled the songs back.
Mm.
It sounded like it was really going to go somewhere. It didn't.
Yeah, and that's where I think the influence of Ian Gillan. To
Yeah.
me, would it be fair to say you could put this album in the lineage of the sort of solo albums that he was doing from the 80s onwards?
Yeah, I think he loved having more control, and I don't think there was too much friction between Ian and Lord, Glover, and Paice.
Yeah.
So without Richie there, he just had free reign.
Yeah. And I mean, it comes to the age-old argument, like if less friction, does it make it less interesting? Sometimes friction is great creatively for a band,
Sure.
and this band actually thrives on creative friction.
Well, I knew with Blackmore, all the times that I saw him, he was always at his absolute best when the opening band was great. And there were a couple times, like one, for instance, was a band called the A's. I saw them open for Rainbow, and there were a couple other instances too. I think Aldo Novo opened for Rainbow.
Oh, yes.
And they weren't a bad band, but they weren't someone that was going to push Blackmore. So those few times he wasn't as good as like when Uriah Heep. The only reason they didn't blow Rainbow off the stage was Blackmore compared to Mick Box. There's no comparison, although Mick is perfect for Heep. And that show was unreal. And there were other instances too.
Blackmore plays better when he's angry.
Oh, yeah.
And when he's fired up. So there's two things that I find that he plays better when he's got new blood. So Burn is an example. New blood in the band. Hugh's covered out. He's firing. Or live, if there's something that offends him, upsets him, he'll come out and, it's sort of like, I'll show you type of attitude. He comes out angry. So, but I don't think this is the sort of music that Blackmore would groove on.
No,
I think he would throw it. He'd get his hand and just swipe it. Sorry, this is not for me. Another thing I want to talk to you about is, are there too many ideas on this album? So, when you're cooking a soup and you put too many ingredients, it loses its flavor. You got to keep, in cooking, keep it simple, just a couple of ingredients. They say it should be 3 or 4. Hey, Cisco is an example. To me, it's just too many ideas and it's going in all different directions.
Yeah.
Do you agree there's too many ideas on Perpendicular? They got a bit too excited, and sometimes, again, the musicianship's getting in the way of writing memorable songs.
Yeah, they should have written fairly simple, straight ahead purple kind of rock. And yet with Morse having an input so that it wouldn't sound like a Blackmore impersonation. Just, if they went at it like, well, we're going to show the world that we're still purple, and they didn't.
Yeah. What do you think of Ian Gillan singing? It's a bit of a different type of mature Ian Gillan. He's not really using the vocal range. I mean, sometimes you can hear it, and sometimes I feel like screaming. Obviously, it'd be a bit funny if he wasn't putting the upper range on that one. But he is exercising a different shapes, different tones to his voice that hadn't heard previously.
Yeah, well, from Sabbath on, his voice was steadily going downhill, but he could still sing pretty good at that time. And I guess he was adjusting, doing what he can do. Because, I mean, if by the 90s, if Iommi said to Gillan, let's redo Born Again, that would have been a totally different sounding album.
Absolutely. So one thing I notice as Gillan gets older and his vocals do sort of have the wear and tear, he's becoming more of a storyteller, and especially in Splat, which he tells some wonderful stories. I like his lyrics. They're wacky, but it's distinctly him. And, you're starting to see the seeds in this. There's more storytelling on this than the Battle Rages On, which wasn't really written for him anyway, vocally. But, he's really, it feels like he's, now that Blackmore's out of the way, he's expressing himself on that side, isn't he?
Yeah.
Where does Perpendicular rank against Deep Purple albums? Perfect Strangers, The House of Blue Light, and the battle rages on. Be interested to hear. How do you rank it? Where would you wedge it with those later period Purple albums?
Last, mostly because no Blackmore.
I would rank it ahead of Battle Rages On simply because I think that there are a couple of songs on this album I would put above.
Yeah.
I really think that Battle Rages On is really dire.
Oh, it is. I've only played it all the way through once.
Mm.
But maybe if they did it a Perpendicular 2 or 3 albums later, but just that initial shock of not hearing Richie, maybe even they would be a tie for me because again, Richie, even Richie on a bad album is worth something.
Yeah. So Mark O'Neill, did this album save the band, or frame it another way, stabilize the band?
It stabilized them, but unfortunately, record sales wise, that wasn't good because they already weren't selling. They did put on good concerts.
Yes.
For the part, sometimes very good, sometimes great. But yeah, that's about it. They were great live, but they were never going to come back record sales wise.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't think it saved Deep Purple, but it stabilized because they were in free falling, as Tom Petty said, and I think that this album kind of steadied the ship, and they could actually climb up, but they could never climb up to the success of, say, the 70s, and for that matter, 1984, which was probably the peak of the reunion in every shape or form.
Yeah.
So what are your final thoughts on this album, Mark?
Well, I play it, not counting for this, for your show here, but I might play it once a year. And about the same with Abandon.
Well, lucky you got a copy.
Yeah.
if I could get a copy of it, tell me.
Well, I'll be happy to trade mine for a vintage 1975 Cadillac Eldorado convertible with the 500 cubic inch engine. I'll trade that for that.
Yeah. Are we Deep Purple tragics too obsessed with the 70s and unfairly dismissive of the later albums? What do you think, Mark? Are we being a little bit unfair?
No, I think we're being truthful. I know that there are some people, one in particular who I won't name, and well, up until recently, Purple could do no wrong with this person, and then he sort of almost did a critical review. But you have to be honest. I love Purple. I bought every album and CD they ever made. But
well,
the 70s,
I wonder who you're talking about.
Yes.
Kumbaya.
Where's your guitar? But yeah, so to be honest, there's nothing wrong with that because I'll still buy if I'm alive in 20 years and they're still making albums and nobody's left. It's a whole new band. I'll still buy it. Yeah. I might not like it, but so being a tragic but honest, that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. If this was, do you think this would have been received differently if this was done by a younger band and it wasn't Deep Purple, Perpendicular? I don't think so, because I think in that time that it came out, as I said, alternative rock
Yeah.
People, the kids were listening to Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots. That style of music, which is very virtuoso, musicianship, fusion, progressive, that was definitely not the flavour of the month, was it?
No, not at all.
So, where do you rank Perpendicular in the scheme of things, the discography?
Oh dear. Well, going by the post Blackmore, not counting Come Taste the Band, that's top 5 always. But from the Morse era, I would say in the bottom third.
Yeah, I think so. But look, I'll say it again. I think Equals One and Splat, to me, it sounds like a revitalized band.
Yeah.
And I love those Bob Ezrin albums that,
Mm-hmm.
with the Steve Morse, like Infinity, that era.
Mm-hmm.
So What? I thought they were great. That was a return to form. But these early Steve Morse albums, like Abandon, Bananas, Perpendicular, I'm not crazy about, because where are the riffs?
Yeah.
Man, that's what I live for. I love the riffs. And that, to me, that's just my personal taste. Purple is riffs, the danger, the grit, the aggression, Where are they going now? It's all very polite.
Yeah, exactly. And Tony Iommi, all through the decades, he's always had the riffs.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, sir. You can hear Mark O'Neill on Pulse 94.7 FM. Lots of great content on the radio. I will put the link below.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, tell us what you think of this album. I'm sure we're going to get some critical flack, but hey, we're just expressing our opinions. Two blokes having a chat,
Mm-hmm.
that's all it is. Share your opinions. We love reading your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. We are the Deep Purple channel. And going to be a show just around the corner. Stay tuned. All the best and cheers. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.